recorder back in here. We're gonna go ahead and start and call the meeting to order. And the first thing we're gonna do is the opening prayer. If you would, please bow with me. Father, please put your hand on our shoulder. Keeping everything civil. We want fairness and equity among everybody. And please help us through this court session to make sure that our decisions are pleasing in your sight. And we ask this humbly in your Son Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
And if you would, please follow Commissioner Cheshire as we honor the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, if you would, follow Commissioner Harrison as we honor the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that all the members of the court are present. And just a quick notice, this is the first public hearing tonight. We're gonna have another one on the 20th, which is this coming Friday. And it's gonna be very similar to this one. It's gonna be the first and second public hearing that's required by law. And the first public hearing, when we were doing the budgets, we have pretty much put together everything. I don't know if you got to see everything in the paper, but this notice that I've got up there now is the printout of what we're looking at, the tax rate of 0.502,500. It's basically $100 per $100 taxable value. This year, the average home's gonna be $583.11. We've got to post this according to statute. Now, from there, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of this program and bring up the let's see here. Do what? Yeah. Has everybody signed in that wants to speak? Everybody? This is it. This is the same one that you have. All right. Now, commissioners, is there anything, before we encourage the public to speak, is there anything that we need to discuss that has not been discussed to date?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Anybody? All right. Everybody's happy with what we've got so far?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see, Mr. Charles Nick? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, I have not really reviewed this very much, and so I don't have a lot of comments, except one major one, and that is some of these laws which you could characterize various ways coming out of Austin that I don't like. And I'm not going to burden you with all my dislikes, except that HB 1528 is going to overload the courts, and you don't know how much yet.
No.
And it's going to overload the law enforcement. We've got lawbreakers and we've got lawmakers. And I think right now, in our present situation, the lawmakers in Austin are pushing to make people be lawmakers. And I respect the law enforcement. Their job is going to be much more difficult. Also, the court system's job is going to be much more difficult. So I will cease my ranting by just requesting that anybody here that has any bearing on talking to the people like Governor Abbott or Trent Ashby or Robert Nichols or whoever, take that back to Austin and repeal it. HB 1528. That is not good. All it's going to do is give them a pathway to pick up some guns, but at the expense of pushing the people too far.
Right.
You can liken this to a relief valve. Right now, we've got a relief valve that's like a fine for minor disturbances. But anymore, if you have a minor disturbance, it's going to go before a judge and probably a jury as well.
Right.
And I know that we've got more expenses, and I can accommodate that, but I cannot accommodate the expenses in time, effort, and pressure on the people with this 15 HB, House Bill 1528. So please repeal that. Anybody that has any.
Thank you, Mr. Biggs.
Very well
Appreciate it.
said, Mr. Neal.
Kelly Dixon. Morning, sir.
How are you?
Doing fine.
All right, so thanks for allowing us to speak publicly.
You bet.
I appreciate that. I've sat on that side, and I know it's not easy. With that being said, I'm here talking about the proposed tax increase that we're going to have here, okay? As a taxpayer, we were just saddled with $75 million, okay, under the disguise of safety for our children, okay? That was the talking point. And sadly, I think, because I've been watching, I think that is the same type of narrative that's being spun right here, okay? That's my personal opinion. I don't feel like I'm going to be any safer, or my children are going to be any safer, if we add 2 deputies or 22. I'm responsible for the safety of my family. The role of law enforcement is to respond when a crime has been committed and report it. That's it. It's not to go out looking for phantoms or whatever it may be. The increase in pay, listen, I can't ever fault anybody for wanting to, do better for their family. Seems like it's a little strong for me, but, that's neither here nor there.
Been 3 years, yeah.
It doesn't matter to me
Okay.
at all. I'm just talking about right now. And by the way, I recently moved back into, Lufkin proper. Now, with that being said, I voted for 3 people in this room, okay? And I don't want to say promised, but I asked questions and I was answered in one way or the other. I just hope that those promises are not broken. If so, I would be just have to look at myself in the mirror, and I'll take action. With that being said, thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. If you put it up there, I can't see it. Now, let me look at it. Let me look at it. All right, Thomas Phillips. Morning, sir.
Evening.
Or afternoon, sir. Yeah. I'll wake up any minute now.
Yeah, my name's Tom Phillips, live on Richardson Road, up there in central area there, Clawson. So did want to come in and talk about the tax increase. I wanted to make a clarification first. You're asking for a 0.50% increase. To increase it to that rate, you could have asked for 0.52 before special election is called. Is that correct?
We're about a cent and a half under
Okay.
the requirement. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. So you're just a little bit under.
I think.
You're
No,
just
it's
a
just
little,
under.
you're just a little bit under before you have to recall an
Correct.
election, okay. Because I think if you would have went for a public vote, it would have been a resounding no, because nobody wants their taxes raised. You know, it's quite simply, this is death by 1,000 cuts, okay? And I don't know how much more we can all take. I have some sympathy for giving the sheriff officers some raises. I concur with my neighbor here that I don't think the hiring of any additional officers is gonna make us any safer. I'm responsible for my safety where I live. What really concerns me is that the county's asking for a tax increase. I know what's gonna happen. The appraisal district's gonna say, oh, your property's worth more money. That's gonna cost me even more money. Central School District, maybe that might go up for some, whatever reason. I'm paying for Angelina College. I don't use Angelina College. I don't have kids. I don't use Central School District either. I'm paying for something I don't even use. In my mind, that's socialism, okay? People say we don't want Democrats in Washington to take over because they're socialists. We're already socialists when it comes to this. So, if you can guarantee me that the appraisal district's gonna freeze our tax values, property values, for a certain amount of time, maybe I'd be okay with this. But this is what's been going on for years and years. I calculate this out, it's about $80 a year for me, okay? But then, if they increase my property tax, there's another $80, and that's what they do. They do just enough to where you won't come and talk like I'm talking to you now, or you won't file a protest for your property value. And I don't think there's anything you can do about Angelina College and the school district. So, again, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Every year, it's a little bit more, a little bit more. I guarantee you, this $80 that I calculated, this is gonna cost me a lot more than $80 next year. So, there's a lot of hidden costs, ladies and gentlemen, behind this tax increase that no one's talking about, but it's gonna happen. And they actually say that in the letter right here. Where's it at? Your individual taxes may increase at a greater or lesser rate or even decrease depending on the change in the taxable value of your property. It's not gonna decrease. It never decreases. It always goes up. Just a little bit, just enough to where you won't wanna mess with it. So, for that reason, I'm opposed to the tax increase at the rate as it currently is proposed. I'd like to be fair, and again, I'd like for people to do better for themselves, and I'm not opposed for the sheriffs to get an increase in pay. Everyone wants a raise. I know that pretty good because I work for the federal government. How many years have our pay's been frozen? So we got one last year, it was 2%, something like that. We've had the same suffering too, but this right here, to me, I think is maybe a little bit high. If it can be modified some, I think that would be okay with me, but it sounds like it's too late to do that. So that's just my concern, is this is gonna cost a lot more than what's being proposed and what the formula is that you're showing everybody, after everything else is gonna be factored in.
Okay.
So, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak. Hopefully it'll make a difference.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Flournoy.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Your time's up.
That's it. Well, they said the older you get, the faster it goes, and boy, that was proof of that. Thank you for having this hearing and giving individuals an opportunity to comment on your budget. Frankly, I've spent several days diligently trying to figure out this budget, particularly the part that deals with the road and bridge fund, which is what I'm more concerned about than anything else. And it's the most complicated thing. I tell you the truth, it's hard for me to understand what the effective tax increase is going to be, what the revenue how that's going to be affected, because it comes from different sources, and some from the, some obviously, most of it from taxes. And for years, I have been concerned about the system that we have. And nobody in this room created this system that we have. It's you inherited that when you got elected, and you have to deal with it. But it's a system that is so fraught with opportunity for things to not be open and obvious to people, what it is, what's being spent, and so on. And like I say, I'm here just really to talk about the road and bridge budget, which is really the budget for the 4 commissioners. I'm frankly alarmed at what the proposed budget is for the road and bridge. I'll just give you a couple of thoughts, and I don't have time, nor will I try to go into specifics, except to tell you that in 2017, the budget for all 4 commissioners, for which is basically all of their budget, was $4,200,716. In 2018, that budget went down about $30,000 to $4,169,634. I'm not saying this is the actual money that was spent. This is what was budgeted. But in 2019, that budget went up to $4,813,000. So it went up about nearly $650,000. And the proposal now for 2020 is that the 4 of you's budget is proposed to be $5,962,197. Now, if you figure the difference in that, just what it is between 2019 and 2020, that's a $1,148,677 increase. And when you figure the percentages, that's a 24% increase, almost 25% increase in the budget. Now, I looked at that, and it's virtually impossible, because you have 4 separate budgets that are operating basically independent of each other, and trying to determine whether or not everybody's being fairly taken care of in each commissioner's precinct is virtually impossible. I think the commissioners do the best that they can, but what they do is that individuals cannot know what they're having to face, what kind of problems they've got, or anything else, because you have 4 different precincts that have different amount of roads, and those budget will go from $480,000 or $500,000 to $1,400,000. And I don't know what roads are in which precinct. I don't know which ones need it most, and so it's why 15 years ago we proposed to have the unit road system adopted in this county, which makes absolute perfect sense. It hires somebody as an road engineer, road supervisor, to be over all of it and put all of those 4 budgets together, where you got one budget, and that road engineer can determine which road in the county needs help the most, what kind of help it needs, knows what to do. And I'm not demeaning whether anybody here knows how to run a road grader, but building a road is something altogether different. And if you want to build one that's going to last, somebody needs to make that decision and pool all of the funds. It can pool all of the equipment. You've got duplications of equipment now that need to be looked at, but you really can't do that. You know, if one needs something, they can go get it. Now, there are occasions when somebody will loan something to somebody else, and I appreciate that. But we've got a lot of equipment that doesn't need to be out there, and we have to pay for it. We're leasing a lot of equipment that's costing tremendous amounts of money, and I don't think that's wise, but that's something that needs to be dealt with. And if you had a road supervisor, they could do that. And my My suggestion is that we work toward adopting a unit road system. It won't cut anybody's pay. It'll just consolidate all of the buying and the operations under one thing, and one person and the commissioner still have control over all that. The court still would decide on that budget and so on. But it's been proven in Nacogdoches and so many other counties that it will save a lot of money. And you know, if you want to try to avoid raising taxes, which I would hope that all of you abhor raising taxes, and sometimes I understand you may think it's necessary, but the only other way to stop that from happening is you just got to cut expenses. And the unit road system is a way to cut tremendous amounts out of the taxes. And I've talked to many of you about the unit road system. And I think that most of you have agreed with me one time or the other that that would be a very helpful thing. But I think it takes the politics out of it. And I'm not talking about partisan politics. I'm just talking about it's political. If I fix your road, will you vote for me and do this kind of thing? And I've got a certain number of people here, and I don't care what the other commissioner wants. I'm trying to take care of my people, and so it'll avoid all of that. So my hope is that we would begin to look at these increases, which these are astronomical. Between 2017 and this budget is proposed for 2020, just with the commissioner's budget, it's a 42% increase in the overall budget for that period of time. So it's 24% from last year. It's been 42% through 3 years before that. So we need to do everything we can to keep from raising taxes on people, just like the fellow was just here talking about it. That costs a lot of money, and we have a responsibility to make sure that we're doing it the most efficient way that we can. And a unit road system is the thing that I think that we all need to work toward quickly. And I would promote and suggest that the one thing that needs to be added to this budget is the cost of what a road engineer would cost, which you could probably do that for $150,000 and provide the staff and everything that's needed without having to really cut anybody else. But to administer this budget of $5,962,000, most of that's under the road and bridge, and we need somebody that's specifically responsible to each one of these commissioners for the whole county and not just for their individual precinct. Okay?
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Warren. All right. Anybody else got any comments that didn't get on the list? All right, guys? Any adjustments? Do we need to go over any of the budget while I've got it up? Do we need to relook at anything more? While they're looking at that, I do want to announce that we do have, according to section 2606 of the tax code, we as a court have to announce the date, time, and place of the meeting for which we're gonna actually vote on the proposed rate. We're actually gonna vote on the 24th at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we will have another public hearing at that time, another opportunity for public comment at that time. But if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. No discussion. All in favor? Aye. Thank y'all very much for participating. It means a lot. Thank you.